over 13,000 damage in one attack. This is not bait, this is not hyperbole, this is the most broken new build in Shadow of the Erdtree. And if you don't believe me, here's me killing Messmer in less than 20 seconds in just 4 hits. Oh yes, my fellow tarnished. I told you, I promised it would not be long until I broke the DLC with a new build. It's what I love to do and it's what I do best, and the only thing is, I never expected it to be this ridiculous, especially with how brutal Shadow of the Erdtree can be. And what you just saw it do to Messmer, it does to every single Remembrance boss. It's kinda hilarious. Way back in the day, I explored Thorn Sorcery in the base game, when they changed it to let the arcane scaling on a staff that casts a sorcery that does bleed actually scale the bleed. It turned the fringe kinda useless Thorn sorceries into an actual fun ranged magical bleed style. It was solid, but it wasn't great. So when I found a brand new Thorn sorcery that fires 3 spikes at once, I had to immediately test it, and what did I find? For some reason, the bleed values on it are absolutely through the roof. And if you don't believe me, it's hard to tell, but the very first cast against Messmer here triggers 2 bleeds by itself, which I think tells you all you need to know about how silly this is. Essentially, if I had to describe this build in one sentence, it would be,
if it bleeds, we can kill it.
And on top of that, the actual raw damage is really good. So let's get into the details then of how to turn this innocent-looking sorcery into the absolute monster that it is. And in the background is me soloing in ridiculous speed a divine lion I've been summoning for while the host is ignoring it and not helping, and it has the increased multiplayer health and resistance scaling. So, yeah. Seriously, this is beyond overtuned, and I would righteously abuse it while you can. It's the most powerful new sorcery, one of the most powerful things in Elden Ring full stop, and I think genuinely in contention for the most busted thing in the DLC. Again, full stop. Now, it does require a really, well, I'm proud of it, setup to make it pop. You can't just whack it on and cast it and have a great time, because you will either not do any damage or get slammed into the ground repeatedly. So, you need 24 faith. Oh, and I should say there is going to be timestamps everywhere, so you can jump around if you just want to know the location of the new stuff, like the sorcery. You can go have a gander if you're already sold, but yeah, use them as you see fit. So this is 24 faith then to cast it, which is annoyingly, well, not really a stat we want as a caster build, whether we're pouring intelligence or arcane, depending on the glintstone staff we're using. But when we have 24 faith, that's only 1 more faith for Golden Vow, and we do need Golden Vow, more for the defensive boost than anything. The reason for that then is thus: when we cast this sorcery at range, you can see it spreads out, and the triple thorn spikes, well, will miss. Only the singular central one will actually hit the target that you're trying to hit. Whereas, if you cast this at point blank, such as against this wall, you will notice that they essentially combine together and all fire on the spot. So, if we have an enemy right in front of us, they take the triple hit, the triple bleed build-up, and essentially, yeah, 13k damage in one cast to Messmer. Now, the other secret sauce special component here is the new glintstone staff, the maternal staff. This is a arcane scaling, which is actually less than the Albinariac gets to plus 25, where it reaches S, but this got nerfed in how much its arcane applies to the bleed of the sorceries it casts. So this actually contributes much more. And it's because we have got this fresh, unnerfed, full-strength, arcane scaling glintstone staff in combination with how overtuned this point-blank triple thorn tower is, that this whole thing works. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's great, but if you have to be at point-blank range, you're going to get absolutely, well, you know, cleaved in twain. And that's true, except for... not really, because we are going to solve the defensive issue in a really elegant way. Now, technically, you could, in your other hand, use something like the Staff of the Guilty and buff this as it's a thorn sorcery. But we don't need to, because the damage is coming from the ridiculous bleed amount, not so much the raw hit, though we do pump that too, because why not? So what I have instead in my offhand is a blood dagger, and Miquella is the best choice for the extra crit, as you will be staggering at them a lot, though that said, an extra cast of the thorns is likely better than actually using the stagger, but either way, you just want a light offhand weapon with the Endure Ash of War. The reason being is, while that's on, not only do you have infinite poise, you can then get huge damage reduction. If we have a look, I'm currently taking 51% less damage. That's nice and everything, primarily from my Scadutree blessing, but if we endure and then check again, I'm now up to 73. That's nearly 25% more damage reduction while we're casting. So you endure and then simply cast, and that is really, really nice. But as you'll notice, you can only cast once during the endure, and then it runs out just as you finish. So we actually need a little bit of cast speed here, which is the final piece of the puzzle, Beloved Stardust, the new talisman that sets your cast speed to literally the maximum amount. Yes, it increases the damage you take, but look, we've gone from 50 to 37, however with Endure on, we're still up at 65, and we've still got Golden Vow, we've still got other talismans, we've still got the Wondrous Physic. It's silly how tanky this is. So then we endure, and now we can cast so quickly that we can do 2 of them just before it runs out. It's a game changer. Quick little live demo before we go over the entire build in detail then. So this guy here is going to hit me, and I'm just going to get immediately cancelled out the cast. Whereas Endure, and then we ignore him, and one-shot him, and barely take any damage, and it's a cheat code. Let's get to the nitty-gritty then, and blast through the actual core build, and everything you want equipped, and stats, etc. So, to begin with said stats, at level 150, which I think is the fair point to be, this is your spread. 60 vigor, of course, don't take less, you will go splat, and then exactly 25 faith for Golden Vow, 24 for the sorcery. Intelligence exactly at 21, so we can wield the maternal staff, and then you can leave dex and strength alone. Enough endurance to feel in a good place with your stamina, and to of course medium roll with what we're holding, and then mind a little bit of a pump just so we can actually cast a fair amount without needing to stop and flask. The rest, absolutely just power it into arcane. The more arcane the better. If you are higher level than me, take your arcane to 80. Other than that then, let's look at gear. Of course, the maternal staff. Have that in your left hand. This is your main caster, and get it upgraded to 25. Not much to say there. Have yourself the dagger then, with the Endure Ash of War attached to it, set to blood affinity for both the arcane scaling, and just to help apply that blood pressure if you ever get the chance to do a little stabby stab, but mainly it's here just for the Endure, cast, Endure, cast combo. A random seal, though I would recommend the arcane one, so it does at least scale if you weave in like blood blood flies or something. You can throw in any other incants that you want to this, your stats willing, and that's all well and good. Armor-wise, very specifically, you want 3 pieces of the Alberich's set. The reason being is it boosts thorn sorcery, which this is. That said, the legs don't actually do anything, so for the legs, just put on as heavy physical negating legs as you can get away with your stamina. When it comes to talismans, as I said, Beloved Stardust is really key here for that cast speed on the thorn sorcery, and then Dragon Crest to offset the extra damage taken by said Stardust and then some. The last 2 slots are actually quite flexible. You can do the following: add something defensive in, a little bit more health, a little bit of Erdtree, or if you want to counter a specific boss like you're up against R'hllana, then put the Spelldrake Talisman on, and so on and so forth. Offensively, options-wise, well, you want to go with, of course, the tried and true Blood Lord's Exaltation. An extra 20% damage gain when your blood loss procs, which is constantly, but of course this is boosting your raw thorns damage, which, while nice, isn't everything. You are really blood-lossing things down, but this certainly is a big enough bump that you can feel it, and it's certainly worth using. The last slot, then, you can just generically boost the Sorcerer with the Graven Mass Talisman, or again, weave in that defensive if you have gone with your Bloodlords in the previous slot. It really is quite open to you what you're going for here. And if, like me, you're not at 80 Arcane yet, then an extra 5 Arcane is a very viable choice. Just push that bleed to the limit. In your Wondrous Physic, then, you want the Opaline Hard tier to get a global extra chunk of damage reduction, again to counter the Talisman, and the fact that you will be taking hits with Endure at close range while casting. It's really underrated and a real hero of the DLC so far. The second tier is up to you. 20% more raw damage on the Thorn's impact is nice from the magic shrouding, but you can also take something like Crimson Burst to counter the self-damage of casting the Thorn sorcery in of itself if you prefer, or you can take, well, really anything your heart desires, but I would definitely recommend either magic shrouding or Crimson Burst. Obviously, spell-wise, have the impenetrable thorns, have the golden vow, and then anything else you feel like. I like a bit of bestial vitality because it slowly heals you up, and again, counters the self-damage of the thorns and the little bits of chip damage you're taking from enduring through boss attacks, but you can choose anything you'd like for the remaining slots here. Playing it is very simple. Keep your golden vow buff on, I will whack my bestial vitality on, and then you want to swap to your Endure dagger, top your mana up, do your Wondrous Physic, and we are ready to go. Endure, and then simply cast and watch the fireworks of blood fly. God, I love it. All that remains then is how to actually get everything. All of the base game stuff I will assume you /have or know how to get because, you know, it's been around for 2 years. So when it comes to the new things, we need Beloved Stardust, we need the Maternal Staff, and the Impenetrable Thorns sorcery itself. Let's handle Maternal Staff and Beloved Stardust first because they both come from the same place. This quest line here, the one that starts in the Cathedral of Manus Meter, and you will do some odd jobs for Count Ymir. Now, this is a complex, long-lasting quest line. It'll only take about an hour with a proper guide, and it just so happens that we have exactly that released the other day, so I will link it down below, and you can follow it and get them. It would extend this video by nearly half an hour to just sort of weave in a whole quest guide here. That said, you get the talisman when you complete part 1, which is visiting these ruins here for him after speaking to him, and then you get the staff itself at the very end of the entire shebang, so I won't spoil that. The actual sorcery then comes from the Black Keep, Messmer's house, and it can be quite irritating to find. Starting from this grace then, the side entrance to said Shadow Keep, which I will assume you know how to get to, especially if you've done the Ymir quest. It's just the run up here, and in we go. So, for me, the water is drained, and it will need to be for you too in order to get the sorcery. So the first run is how to actually drain the water, so off we go, onto the roofs and follow my path. You will arrive then at this crank, so go ahead and crank it. You will then see all the water disappear, and we can now go down there. Once again then, follow my path. You can drop down the ladder you climbed up to initially get here, and there will be this, that you can fall into the previous lake. Off we go. Here we are then. You will reach this grace here, the tree worshipping sanctum. And right in front of it, this body here will have the sorcery we desire. So that's all done and dusted, which is also what your enemies will be when you start using this against them. Now, don't think you have to constantly endure and tank everything. You can just dodge normally and then cast the sorcery in openings while close to the boss, but the endure really does give you that safety net to really get it done, chain the bleeds and then the staggers, and annihilate everything. I hope you have enjoyed this. There will be plenty more builds to come. Not all will be, you know, cataclysmic, game-destroying. Some just fun and worth playing because they're cool, and everything in between. For now then, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.